FYI, I present this video as entertainment, not as fact. I am no linguistics expert. I just thought it'd be fun to check into it. Hope you enjoy it. Hello there, boys and girls, and welcome to another video from Adventures of the Broke and Retired. I'm your old buddy Don. I'm going to be here with Elmer today, who's going to try to take on a little bit more responsibility around here. Do me a favor, if you would, please. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps the channel tremendously when viewers like, subscribe, and share. So if you would be so kind as to do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, today, I've got some notes here. Today, I've got some notes because there's no way I'm going to remember this all. So I know that looking down at notes while you're doing a video like this it's rude and it's distracting, and I don't necessarily mean to do it, but there's no way I'm not going to. So, okay, let's get to it. The word of the day, shall we call it, is okay. The other day I was having a conversation with Amy, and I don't remember exactly what it was that she said to me, that she asked me, but I answered her with okay. And for some reason, answering her with okay stuck in my mind, and it made me think of where the term okay came from. I'm not trying to downplay the importance of what she said. Whatever it was, I agreed to it, so it couldn't have been bad. I just remember saying okay, and that's what made me think. And later on, I remember finding myself pondering over what that term, where it came from, how did it get to be. So I decided I would check it out, look it up, see what's going on, and I promptly found myself down a rabbit hole on this one that turned out to be very, very interesting, really. Back in the early 1800s, the 1830s to be a little more specific, there was a new craze in Boston, the Boston area, and Boston itself. A new trend, a new fad. The cool thing to do was to misspell stuff. The cool thing to do was to come up with abbreviations for everything. Let's go to the store. You didn't say, let's go to the store. You said, LGTTS, man. LGTTS, let's go to the store. And that's what made you cool, right? Now, you'd come up with initials, abbreviations for things, even though sometimes those abbreviations didn't match what you were actually abbreviating. Okay is meant to abbreviate. It's called initialization or initializing, making initials up for something, abbreviating things through initials. It's called initializing. When they initialized all correct, it came out okay. And it came out okay instead of AC because what they did was they misspelled intentionally all correct. First of all, there's two ways they misspelled it. First of all, like this, and then like this. They misspelled them, so they came out, instead of being AC, they came out okay, which really it works out better. Otherwise, you'd be saying, AC, dude, let's go for Italian, yeah. Instead of okay, you'd be saying AC. But anyhow, so that's where they say okay came from. Now, it was colloquial, is that the word, colloquial? It was colloquial language, pretty basically. It was limited to that area, to that part of Boston. A lot of it was just, it was a spoken word, it was a spoken slang, a vernacular that was limited to that area. It was in print some in the 1830s, but for the most part, it was just spoken locally. If it was in print, it was just local little stuff. You know, it wasn't any big publications until the re-election committee for Martin Van Buren in the 1840s, I think it was. It was the OK was around for about 10 years. Besides, before the politicians decided they were going to steal it. So as it turns out, Martin Van Buren, whose last name is Dutch, of Dutch heritage, decided that his re-election campaign decided that his name, Martin Van Buren, was not going to work as a great campaign slogan. Vote for Martin Van Buren. No. So they decided to hijack OK. Martin Van Buren was from a little town in eastern New York State called Kinderhook, called Kinderhook, like this, Kinderhook. So all of a sudden he became known as Old Kinderhook. OK. So now you vote for OK instead of Martin Van Buren. Vote for OK. So yeah, that does sound a little better, doesn't it? Martin Van Buren or OK, because OK was accepted. OK was hot. OK was fresh. It was new. It was cutting edge, and people liked it. People thought it was cool because it was OK. I don't know if he got reelected or not, by the way. Should have checked into that to see. Shortly thereafter, the Whig Party decided that they were going to mock Andrew Jackson by saying that OK referred to him, because evidently Andrew Jackson was an incredibly poor speller. He couldn't spell very well. He was an atrocious speller. And so they said OK stood for him because he didn't know how to spell nothing. And if that's true, if he couldn't spell anything, I don't know. I don't know anything about Andrew Jackson. I know that he died in 1845. But if that's true that he couldn't spell, it seems to me that people in Boston would have loved him. I mean, they were all excited about spelling stuff wrong and initializing things. I don't know why they wouldn't have. They should have loved him, right? Got a dry throat. Anyhow, so the phrase OK got hijacked from the cool people in Boston to a couple of politicians. One as a way to get them elected, and one as a slight. One just as a mock, to mock Andrew Jackson. This town that Van Buren was from, Kinderhook, to make sure I spelled it right and just to kind of give me a little bit of a better understanding of what I was talking about, I decided I'd look up Kinderhook and see what's up with that, which turned out to be very, very interesting. One of the things I wanted to make sure was I knew how to spell it. And as it turned out, I was spelling it wrong, okay? And I'm going to tell you how that worked. 1609, think back then. That was before your mama was born. 1609, Henry Hudson is sailing up the river. I would assume he was sailing up the Hudson River, but I don't know. Should have looked at that too, but didn't. But Henry Hudson wasn't the point of this video, so it didn't really matter. Henry Hudson's sailing up the river, and he comes across this place where there's a turn in the river, and there's some big bluffs on one side, and the bluffs on those bluffs, there's a whole bunch of Mohican kids, a bunch of Mohican kids, all hanging out, staring at the boat. Now, of course, they're staring at the boat because it was 1609. Those kids had never dreamed of something like that boat, let alone actually seen one, and here it was before their eyes. So they were just amazed by the boat. Now, Henry Hudson, who I believe was also of Dutch descent, was surprised by those kids there, and he decided to name that part of the river, that turn in the river with the bluffs and the kid. He decided to name that part of the river Kinderhook. Kinder meaning child or children, and hook meaning turn, hook in the river. Now, originally it was spelled, like I said, like this, And then evidently later on they changed it to this, which I would assume was an effort to make it look not so Dutch. I don't know. But that's the town that Van Buren was from. Just for fun, I looked up to see how big of a town it was. The latest census information that I saw was from 2010. It said 8,498, so 8,500 people, which is a small town. But I thought that was pretty interesting stuff. So this indicates, the original research on this indicates that the term okay came from people in Boston who thought it was cool to be ignorant of how to spell things, intentionally spelling things wrong, and or using initials for everything, whether the initials actually applied to what it meant, because okay meant all correct, which doesn't add up, but that's what it was for. So they spelled all correct, all, well, like this. They spelled it like this to make the okay work. So it either came from there or it came from politicians. And really, chances are better that it came from the politicians' use, or I should say, became widespread and stayed in use because of the politicians using it. Because in Boston, it was just local. It was colloquial. It was even if it was printed, it was very small circulation. But when it came to the guys that were running for president, it came to the guy who was running for president and Andrew Jackson, that they started publishing it in the national papers, and that really gave it some widespread recognition. Some people claim that it came from the Choctaw Indian language. They had a word. They didn't have a written language, but they had a word that they used, okay, which meant everything is all right. It meant the same thing then as what okay means to us now. There was also some missionaries that traveled around trying to convert the Indians to Christianity. And they hijacked the word from the Choctaw Indians, but they had a written language, obviously. They spell it oak like this, O-K-E-H, I think. Is it? Yeah, O-K-E-H, they spelled it. And it meant, it is so. So at the end of their Bible reading, at the end of their Bible verse, they would say, okay, meaning it is so. There's also some people who believe that the term originated in far South Africa, where there was, again, a heavy Dutch influence. The Dutch had two words that they would use, either K, K-A-Y, or woke, weke, wauke, weke, which meant the same thing that okay means to us now. It meant all is good, everything's fine. Those words were in regular use for a long time, a long time. So if you look at this and you read this stuff and you go through and you check it all, there's no definitive answer of where language comes from. There's no definitive answer, I don't think, any definitive answer of where any single words or phrases or whatever come from. There's speculation because of the areas of the world that were using that language at the time, but it's hard to say exactly what language they were using if there was no written language. So the history on language, written language, is actually fairly short. And unless you know someone or can find someone, or unless there even is someone who has maintained the use of the language, then you don't know exactly what it means or what it's all about. All you can do is speculate and say, and say what you think it does or what they think it does, or general consensus of what it does, but you can't say for sure. You can't say for sure where words came from. Now, One thing you can say, one thing that people do know is that, and this is interesting, really, kind of a trivial fact. Um, the term okay and its meaning uh, translates into over 40 languages worldwide, over 40 languages worldwide. Some of those languages, I, the reason I'm not naming them off is because I couldn't pronounce them what I felt would be correctly, even after I looked them up and saw the pronunciation. I think some of those languages you'd have to hear someone say what the name of it is to know, because um, there's no way I could pronounce some of those. But I do know that there's over 40 of them, and I do know that they consider okay, they, the powers that be, consider the term, phrase, okay, to be the most widely used English word in the world. The most widely used, and of course understood, term, phrase, word in the English language in the world is okay. So the next time somebody says to you, hey, let's go to the movies, and you say, okay, you can be thinking of ship's captains, you can be thinking of presidential candidates, you can be thinking of kids hanging out on a bluff looking at a ship, you can be thinking of Choctaw Indians saying K, you can think of heavy Dutch influence in deep southern Africa. And if you do, that would be okay.